All right. So there's this moment everybody knows from the movies where Elrond is having a flashback talking to Gandalf about Isildur keeping the ring for himself. And he says, "Men are weak." It's one of the most quoted lines in the fandom.
Elrond certainly has strong feelings on the matter and throws some massive shade with his "men are weak" line, even if it's not actually in the books, right? Peter Jackson wrote that for the movies. It's a movie-only invention.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Even though Elrond never actually said it in the books, he probably could have. Like, the man fought in the Last Alliance, watched the war against Sauron, and then watched Isildur walk away with the ring instead of destroying it.
You're not wrong. The evidence against men is plentiful.
Even Aragorn, a human man himself, seems to view humans as a whole as more susceptible than other races, at least when it comes to resisting the ring.
I guess you could say he drank the elven propaganda Kool-Aid a little bit, but I also want to point out that his lady love was an elf, so there might have been some bias there.
Yeah, is it propaganda though? Númenorians weren't exactly the smartest when they listened to Sauron and tried to land in Valinor and then got their island sunk by the gods.
True. That was a bad call, for sure. But, I mean, the elves weren't exactly the wisest either. They were the first to slay their own kin and kind of kick off everything that happened in the First Age.
Yeah, the elves lost a lot of moral high ground when they did the whole kin-slaying thing. You can't really call men weak when you started a civil war over boats.
Not just a civil war over boats, a civil war over boats that they wanted because they were chasing some shiny rocks.
To be fair, they were very shiny rocks.
But this is the thing. Like, men get corrupted by a magical ring forged by the Dark Lord, and everyone says, "See, humans are so weak." And then the elves get corrupted by the jewelry that they made themselves, and somehow that's tragedy and poetry.
Right? Well, yeah, the elves are so old. They were like the only ones around to even write the history books.
Well, or at least they made sure none of the ones written by men survive. But, you know, when Isildur makes one bad decision after helping to defeat Sauron, he's apparently Exhibit A for why men can't be trusted.
I mean, to be fair, though, Isildur's one bad decision did almost doom Middle-earth for like 3,000 years.
Sure, but Fëanor's decisions doom Middle-earth for like most of the First Age, which I think is a little bit more than 3,000 years, if we're keeping score.
Which I guess we are. And I just realized, too, all these disasters caused by men seem to involve them being manipulated by Sauron. But all these disasters caused by elves usually happen when there isn't a Dark Lord anywhere nearby.
And now you're speaking my language. I mean, Sauron had to spend years corrupting Númenor. Fëanor woke up one morning and chose chaos all on his own, it seems like.
I guess immortality doesn't automatically grant you wisdom.
Right. I'm being a little facetious here with kind of skipping over the entire history of Fëanor, but like,
my poor elves are not looking so hot right now. I think, though, we're going to have to go through time and compare human and elf mistakes.
Welcome back to Beyond the Brandywine,
where we wander, wonder, and occasionally get lost in Middle-earth. I'm Angela.
And I'm Kelsey. Beyond the Brandywine is a cozy, curious, and occasionally chaotic journey through Tolkien and the stories of Middle-earth.
Join us as we laugh over the odd bits of lore and chase tangents like hobbits chasing second breakfast. We're here to explore the places where the map fades and the questions get weird.
So, Angela, for today's episode, we'll be using the famous line from Elrond from the movies, "Men are weak," as a starting point for discussion on how true that statement actually is.
Are men really as weak as the elves say? Or is this just some elvish propaganda being spread around Middle-earth?
I mean, the case against men isn't baseless. We've got our typical examples, right, of Isildur failing to destroy the One Ring and Boromir trying to take the ring from Frodo. But I don't know. I kind of want to look at the full body of evidence because when you actually go back through the ages, personally, I feel like the shade against men seems more and more of the elvish propaganda bent.
I had to think about this one a little bit. The elves, it turns out, are also a bit of a disaster. And the problem is that almost everything we know about Middle-earth comes from sources written by the elves, which means the prosecution has been controlling the evidence this whole time.
Seems like a great court case. Are men uniquely weak, or have they just had terrible representation and lawyers throughout the ages?
Shall we have a courtroom battle and find out?
I think we should. Let's
do it.
Doink, doink. I want to do the music from
We need a gavel.
from Law and Order.
Yeah.
Law and Order, Lord of the Rings edition, brought to you by Doink, doink.
Actually, I love it.
Okay. Framing this discussion, if you will, Angela, and we said at the top, but the line "men are weak" from Elrond is not in the books. And I want to lay that out up front. It is not in the books. It is from the movies only. But as we said, it's not.
It kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like, really? Was there
Feels like Elrond?
no mention at all in the books? I still am not fully convinced that there's nothing in the books, but
yeah, but I'm with you. It feels like something Elrond could have said. He definitely has the experience through the ages to be a little disappointed.
He has good reason to think that the men shouldn't be trusted with the ring.
Yeah, but for my optic, so framing the evidence, if you will, before we get into sort of the pros and cons, the prosecution and defense of men being weak in this case, right?
So the charges are men are weak.
The charges are men are weak, and we're going to try to defend that. We'll provide evidence from both sides. I think there's some arguments for and against, but what does weak even mean in this case? When Elrond says that men are weak, men are they're just more corruptible. They're more likely to take the ring. They're more likely to fail throughout history.
Well, yeah, I guess he was talking about it in the context of the ring itself in that scene where Gandalf is kind of like, who should handle the ring?
Well, it's not just who should handle the ring. It's who do we place our hope in for the next
you're right.
age of history.
It is in men that we should place our hope.
And Gandalf's like,
men are weak.
Yeah, Elrond strong disagree, but then Gandalf, to his point, he's like, okay, but y'all elves are leaving the continent forever. The dwarves are doing their own thing.
Who else do we have?
Yeah, who else do we have? At some point, they're here. They're not all entirely
They're not all bad.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I only wanted to highlight that because it's weak in what context? Weak when it comes to the temptation of the ring, weak when it comes to just overall making poor decisions, because I feel strongly about the elves on that one.
I know. So, the ring wasn't around until, the Second Age? So there's a lot of evidence that we could point to that happens in the First Age as far as good or bad decisions overall. So maybe we can make it a more broad, the races as a whole.
Yeah, it's not. I think the argument about men being weak or not should take into account beyond the ring itself.
The ring is a more modern problem.
Yes.
But there were other problems in the other ages.
There's just a few problems.
We're also shiny jewelry. So
something about shiny objects in Tolkien's world, right?
Yeah.
And I think the other kind of thing I would call out before we get into discussing some of the evidence is what you alluded to in our intro is the evidence is written by the elves.
Right.
There's very much what I would call some bias here in terms of the source material.
Because I can't remember the exact ages, but the elves were around for thousands of years before the men even showed up, right?
Yeah, when they awoke by the lake under the stars and were guided west and all that.
Yeah, elves had to find them and bring them over.
Before the sun and moon even existed. Yeah. It's a whole thing, right?
There's plenty of time to write a bunch of history. And
and make poor decisions.
I don't know if men just arrived with the ability to write and have a language and stuff, so it might have taken them some time to get established.
Maybe. And it's worth calling out that Tolkien specifically says, right, his big history work, the Silmarillion, is a translation of elvish records, right?
Oh, I see.
So the way he kind of framed it when he was writing it, it's this is a translation of the elvish records of everything and transmitted.
So it already is a biased book.
It already is. The Silmarillion, read it with an eye towards bias because it's coming from the elvish traditions, and he even says his elvish histories are always said to be recorded by hobbits or men who had learned the elvish traditions.
So that makes... Basically, my point is, if the elves... the Silmarillion is the elves' history. That means it was already written, making elves look as good as possible, right?
Well, some of them
maybe
definitely
somebody
did some
accurately recorded what happened.
Yes. But again, we are only highlighting that all of our accounts of everything that happened from the First Age to the Lord of the Rings until Bilbo's, writing his Red Book of Westmarch, come to us from the elves.
So keep that in mind as we're reviewing the evidence. Okay.
Yes. If there are annals of men that describe some of the stuff in the First and Second Age, they're not even recorded, except for, I will say they're not recorded. We don't necessarily have records of them in Tolkien's Legendarium. The Fall of Númenor, specifically the Alcalabeth, was written by Elendil and his people who were the survivors. So there's definitely some survivorship bias. And they were very much against all the shenanigans on Númenor. So again, take it with a grain of salt because their representation of how things went down, how things are bad, they're the only ones living at this point in time.
So we don't really know this perspective.
We've only
the
got
other
their
Númenor.
version of how Númenor pulled in Atlantis and went down forever.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So that's framing the charges up. And then we're going to hear the prosecution's case.
Yes.
How are men weak?
How are men weak? I mean, they've made some pretty bad decisions.
Lots of examples. We'll go through the ages.
Yes.
This podcast is not about just Lord of the Rings lore.
Journey with us through all of Tolkien's work and some of the movies, right? And I think
start reading the books.
Please. I mean, there's a couple big ones I can think of if we're going into the case against men.
Okay.
There's a couple examples there.
Where are you going to start?
I don't know. We've got choices here. We got Númenor. We got the Rings of Power. We got Turin.
Well, we could start with like the easy ones from Lord of the Rings. Isildur unable to throw the ring. The whole reason Elrond even says men are weak.
Yeah. Well, that whole scene with them in Mount Doom doesn't happen in the books either. I know.
What?
I know. Isildur is unable to destroy the ring. But it's not
he
like
doesn't necessarily
like,
go up to the mountain.
Elrond does not like walk him into the cracks of doom and stand next to him and yell at him
throw
to
it
do
in
the
the
thing.
fire. Yeah.
Isildur! No.
So that's just dramatic.
It's dramatic, but it does get the point across in the film. But in terms of the actual books, it's just described that Isildur
he just takes it,
keeps
from
the
ring,
ring,
keeps it.
Yes.
Doesn't actually. He's close enough. They're like,
could have hiked up the mountain.
Could have
hiked
it
Who
up,
knows?
but didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't really know.
He wasn't that close.
The failure is him not destroying the ring. How exactly that went down?
Okay, slight tangent question.
Yeah.
How aware were they that was even the solution to like getting rid of the ring or the evil? Like they just, in their mind, defeated Sauron. Yeah, they have the ring, but like, do they even know?
Great question. I don't know. I would think.
I'm not prosecuting right now.
No, you're just like, I'm here for men. Well, think of it this way, though. We know in the books that the 3 elven rings were created before. So all the other rings are made before the one ring, right? So it's the 3 elven rings.
They were first.
And then the 7 for the dwarf lords, and then the 9 for men, and then he makes the one ring. And when Sauron makes the one ring in Mount Doom, the 3 elves who have their rings at the time sense it. So they know that they've been betrayed. So there's at least a sense of feeling that Sauron has made a one ring. I don't know if they know the exact like geolocation of where he's doing it, but they're alerted to his machinations in a way that makes me think if some smart elven scholars sat around and thought about it, they'd probably be like, well, this thing was made over there. Maybe it can be unmade over there. But maybe not. Maybe it's not till Gandalf arrives with his wisdom.
Maybe all those thousands of years had to happen where you're like, oh yeah, he's actually come back. So he must be tied to the ring. But anyway, it technically was still a failing of Isildur to not be able to throw it away.
Yeah, no, he held on to it as an heirloom of his people and it got him killed. So
and it ended up starting a whole chain reaction of evil hanging on in Middle-earth.
I don't know. I'm going to not give the elves too much credit about not knowing. Like, I think they knew how to destroy the ring, which is probably where this disappointment comes from. Now, I hope they told men. Like, maybe they knew how to destroy the ring and nobody told us.
Nobody communicated it.
Like, hey, bro, while we're here, do you mind going into Mount Doom?
Objection, speculation.
Objection, speculation. Right. We don't know. It's total speculation. But I think it's interesting to kind of poke holes in the whole, like,
yeah.
Well, obviously you have to destroy it in Mount Doom. Obvious to whom?
Would Elrond really have destroyed it himself, though, if he was the one that sliced the ring off and had it in his hand afterwards?
I hope so. Look, he's got a lot of feelings towards objects that make people do crazy things, given his family history and the Silmarils, and
had a better track record.
Having his mom almost be killed by the sons of Fëanor.
Fair.
And seeing his entire brother's line die almost with Númenor. I feel like he would.
So we can give that one
I'm going to give that one to Elrond. I'm going to give points Elrond.
All right. And then we have the other famous one of Boromir
trying to take the ring.
In a moment of weakness, trying to take the ring.
Couldn't see through the ring fever, if you will. But here's the thing. Like, he's not just men are tempted by the ring. You and I have talked about this. Gandalf is very much, doesn't even want to be near it. Like, don't even offer it to me, Frodo.
Yeah, we had a whole episode on this.
Yeah.
So, like,
Galadriel very much
he's
tempted.
not uniquely tempted by it. So we can rule this one out as being, like, a strictly men
I don't think being weak to the One Ring is strictly men. And dwarves dwarves are not weak to the ring, which we kind of love. We love dwarves for that. But
Right.
we're not talking about dwarves right now. We're talking about elves and men. I think it leads into naturally the other rings of power that were given to men.
Oh, the 9?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if we're talking
yeah.
about stuff from Lord of the Rings and later on, right?
That's true. All 9 of those men. It
Yeah.
wasn't even the One Ring, and they turned into ring race.
They raced so fast. But here's the thing. Do you consider the men that Sauron sought out like representative of all men? Or were these the ones that were naturally more power hungry and corrupt or slightly evil?
That's
because like the Witch King of Angmar is not a nice
like
dude.
how many leaders were there at the time? Was that the only 9, or did he pick out 9 that were more susceptible?
Well, there's a whole branch of men in Aragorn's ancestors that very much did not take the rings, very much held their own and tried to hold their own kingdom. So yeah, I it's interesting to think about because yes, we have 9 men given rings, turned into little wraithies forever, little Sauron servants. Great. But that's 9 men out of how many men on the continent?
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's good guys, there's bad guys.
So Galadriel's line from the movies, which I'm 99.
We're paraphrasing
I'm 100% sure that it is a just strictly movie thing where she's like, men above all else desire power.
Yes.
That was a movie thing.
I think that was a movie thing. Yeah. Maybe they do.
Because I don't remember hearing that anywhere else.
Again, we're going to get to the first stage.
I know. I was like, I don't think plenty of examples.
I don't think that statement holds as much water as Galadriel says in the movie. But again, maybe that's why it's a movie line, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay, fine. Men and rings of power. Again, I don't know if that's representative. And it's also, there's direct intervention by Sauron in this case. The elves were okay because their rings were created without him messing with them. But if the elvish rings had been created by Sauron in some way, let's ignore rings of power because they got that wrong. But
yeah,
if Sauron had directly made the elven ring like he made the rings for men,
then they could have been.
Could we have had a different
susceptible?
Yeah,
who knows?
Because even Galadriel says they can't really fully use their rings in the open because of Sauron, even though he didn't directly touch them, which makes me think he absolutely, if he had made the elven rings, maybe would have some elf wraiths running around. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be even more scary,
right? It's I say that only in that I don't think men in the rings of power, the 9 rings of power, is like men are weak because they turn into wraiths. Well, there's some extenuating circumstances when it comes to what happened to the other races, right?
Yeah. Well, this kind of leads me to another one where the Easterlings and just other men from like the south and east around Mordor.
From Rhûn, from Far Harad, from South Harad.
Yeah.
Yes.
All those men fought on this side of Sauron. And now I don't remember the exact history of.
Do we know they all did though?
No.
We know that like large portions of armies came out of there in support of Sauron. We don't know if there's like local uprisings. We don't know if people fought back against those guys before they were pro-Sauron.
But it is big groups of men.
Yes.
Now, granted, elves don't live down there either, so maybe we can't really say that elves wouldn't have.
Yeah, but it's mostly men. Like to your point, like it's men being like, Team Sauron,
right?
We're here for you.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. But we do know from the histories that the other wizards, the 2 blue wizards that we never really talk about that were part of the Order with Gandalf and Saruman and Radagast, they went out east to try to kind of stop Sauron's shenanigans. And if it were not for them, it would have been a lot worse. Yeah. So the armies we see coming out of the east, and at least the east, right? I don't think they went to the south necessarily, but they definitely went east. They were able to stem the influence of Sauron in a way to like minimize the blast radius of how bad it was. So that's something like that, which makes me think there's also factions out there that are not pro-Sauron.
That's fair.
Right?
Yeah.
So again, men, it's a big spag, but I don't know. They get such a bad rap, but you know.
Well, I had in there just one more. The Denethor went kind of crazy.
He had a bad time of it, man. His wife died. His favorite son died.
He went through some stuff. Was
super depressed, super just full of despair. He's, again, like not all men. I shouldn't say that. He is a very public example of a man failing, but ultimately it didn't affect.
But there were plenty of examples of men around him.
Yeah.
Standing up to him.
Doing the right thing.
Doing the right thing.
Yeah. It's contained. Like, it's bad. It's public. But Gondor is eventually saved, and a bunch of other people do the right thing, and it works out.
Yeah.
It's not like Gondolin. The whole city doesn't fall because of him, she says.
That's fair. Which we're starting to get into some of the earlier ages already.
I'm jumping back.
Because, we don't have... It does seem like some of these examples are fairly small. Overall, not inherently besides maybe the Easterlings. We'll see.
Well, yeah.
They're the
definitely
biggest
affect-
example.
To your point, we have these men are at the point of a decision and make the wrong decision. What is the actual impact of that, right?
Well, like Boromir took his back.
He took his back. He did #be a Boromir, like he did the right thing. But even Isildur, like let's say the elves blame Isildur for all that going down in the next 3,000 years and having to fight Sauron again in the Third Age.
Mm-hmm.
They were there too.
Yeah.
You're telling me you guys are just standing by and letting him take the ring if you felt so strongly about
If
it.
If you knew. And you like don't take it from him by force or something.
Well,
knowing,
but like, why don't you work harder to convince him to get rid of it? Why don't you do more? Why don't you accidentally make the ring disappear?
I don't know if they even knew yet how important it was to destroy that ring.
Or they were too passive and now they're covering up for it by blaming men. Just saying.
Just guilt saying.
There. There's some guilt in there on the behalf of truly, like, I mean, Elrond's a good dude and he helps out Aragorn and he protects the heirs of Isildur. So, like, he's doing the right thing. But does he also protect them because he feels guilty for how it played out because he didn't push hard enough to get the ring destroyed?
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, I got to argue that Isildur is not all bad either because he defeated
Sauron.
Yeah, he defeated Sauron. He took the ring, but he thought he killed him. So, like, it was so bad.
Going through all that trauma, seeing your dad and your dad's elfie best friend.
They escaped Númenor. Like, they were on the good side from the whole time.
Yeah, you escaped the destruction, the cataclysmic destruction of your home island. You have to reestablish kingdoms in Middle-earth. You have to fight Sauron over a long time, and then it culminates in this horrific battle that's like a months-long, years-long siege that you finally, at the end of it, your dad's dead, the leader of the elves is dead. You managed to destroy it. Like, I think he thought he was like, great, we did the thing.
Yeah. I'm going to take this for myself, and
now.
It's an heirloom for my kingdom. And
it's like a little trinket from like, hey, guys, remember the Wolf War at the end of the Second Age?
See, Gandalf didn't know.
Where was Gandalf? Was he back in Middle-earth at this point?
Where was Gandalf?
Yeah, where was Gandalf? So, like, Gandalf wasn't even sent until 1,000 years into the Third Age when maybe they realized, whoopsie, Sauron isn't really dead.
Yeah. I'm just reminding myself that the first time they defeated Sauron, when Isildur cut the ring off, that was the very end of the Second Age.
Yes, that ends the Second Age.
Okay. So, and then it's not until another 1,000 years later that Gandalf even comes back to
Middle-earth. Yeah, I think he was there like early on in like pre-First Age, First Age.
And so the ring is still at the bottom of the river at this point.
Yeah.
But I guess there's rumors of Sauron like coming back at this point.
Somebody somewhere has decided over on the Valar side that maybe we need to send some extra help because maybe
he's not.
We messed up.
Dead.
Maybe he's not. Gone.
So I don't think we can really blame Isildur.
No, I think again, I will end with this on Isildur. If he legitimately thought Sauron was destroyed and there was no way he could come back, didn't know about destroying the ring, then maybe he just thought it was a cool little thing to remind his family of that time they defeated Sauron and saved the whole world.
Which I could say, like, yeah, maybe it would have been better to go ahead and destroy it. Elrond may have even said that, like, because he apparently has a track record of being like, hey, these rings
nobody listens
of power
to
is like
enough.
just not. Yeah, I know. No one's like, this is not a good idea, but I could easily see how Isildur's like, man, you're just worrying too much. Like,
he's really gone, bro.
Yeah.
Maybe. People do need to listen to Elrond, but also maybe Elrond needs to speak up a little bit more.
Yeah, be a little more forceful there.
Maybe that's why they had the scene in the movie where he's like dragging him to Mount Doom to show him having a more active role because he should have done that.
Right. It's like, hey, you should throw that away.
Well, the joke is always that scene in the movies when Elrond is at the cracks of doom with Isildur. Like, okay, if you're really upset about him not destroying it, why didn't you just kick him in, take him out and the ring? Be like, oops, if there was an earthquake and he fell in, but hey, the ring's destroyed.
I think, it's just no one's feeling that it's not a good idea, that he doesn't have enough evidence to like kick Isildur.
Well, and Isildur's also his like great nephew, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah.
Kick him in.
I don't. It's like watching that family member that you're like, I don't like what you're doing, but I'm not going to do anything to stop it.
But he put up anyway. I don't even think that was very like damning against men as we talked through it.
No, I am leaning more towards men are not weak after that. Well, that was supposed to be the prosecution. I think we defended everybody more.
I know. We're like, hey, well, it's like our dragons episode. We're like, who are the only people to kill dragons? Men.
That's a good point.
Just saying. I mean, look, we haven't talked about Númenor for reals, though. And I will say Númenor is a pretty
let's
good
start
case
getting into that because we've talked about these smaller incidents in the Third Age that we're all familiar with.
Númenor is not a small incident, and it's very much one of the major points in the Second Age.
So we're moving back to the Silmarillion.
It's a little bit in the appendices of Lord of the Rings as well. Yeah. Back in time, back to when...
You want to lead us off in this one?
We'll be quick. I know we've talked about it in fits and spurts in other episodes. Númenor is an awesome island of men. It was a gift. It was started by Elrond's brother. because
Elros,
he was so awesome, and Elrond and his brother were given the choice to be elven or human, and his brother went human, and Elrond picked the other side of the coin. And it's this like shining example of men being great, and it's a seafaring nation, and it's gifted this special spot in the ocean that's almost within sight of the Undying Lands as like a thank you, but not really. Anyway,
they do live longer than usual.
They're tall. They're awesome. Like Elendil's like 7 feet tall, right?
Damn.
Yeah, he's tall. They're like almost superhuman. They're not your average men of the third age, right? Like,
yeah, for sure. Which they've said that even in the movies.
Yeah. They're pretty cool, but they make some bad choices. So they kind of have their ups and downs, but they're very powerful. They're probably the most powerful kingdom of men to ever exist.
They started out pretty wise, I think.
Yeah, Elrond's brother was the founder, so it's not like
not just some normal.
No, this is a special.
How long do they go? Hundreds of years? Are we talking thousands?
Thousands.
Okay,
thousands.
They're living
not a small
the
amount
good
of time. They've established. They even have colonies in Middle Earth,
known for their ships, which obviously you need to be to.
Yeah,
you're on an island, so you got to be.
Yeah, and the big thing is they come and save the elves pretty handedly in the Second Age, where things are kicking off. Sauron's made the rings, the elves and Sauron are fighting, Sauron's destroyed Celebrimbor's kingdom, which we saw in season 2 of the Rings of Power. Like, that's all happened. We're getting into season 3 of Rings of Power now, but essentially Sauron's looking like he's going to destroy what's left of the elven kingdoms in Middle Earth.
Not looking good.
And the last king of Númenor, Ar-Pharazôn, gins up the second biggest fleet he's ever gotten, sails to Middle Earth, save the elves, capture Sauron.
Yeah.
Actually capture Sauron, which is something the elves are not able to do.
Kind
of a big deal.
Back to Númenor.
Brings them back to Númenor. Thoughts on whether that was the right move?
And then this is where things start to fall apart.
Yeah. It gets, I know we've talked about it, right? But like, yeah, things get bad.
In men's defense, Sauron is like the master manipulator. So you bring him to your island.
And don't get rid of him and let him whisper in the king's ear.
Just a matter of time.
Before he's out of his jail cell and running the whole place and creating a giant temple to Morgoth. And there's human sacrifice. And he's telling you, you know what you should do? Go invade the heavens because they've given you the short end of the stick as men. And they're like, great.
We totally agree. We've been...
Yes. Númenor... Well, and it's like within less than 60 years, they go from Númenor at the peak of its power, capturing Sauron, to Sauron has become the king's chief advisor, and they're conducting human sacrifice in the name of Morgoth, and everything's about to just get destroyed, right?
That's actually pretty short when you go thousands of years, right? The peak of your civilization, it's like 60 more.
And from the elves' perspective, like they're like, how did you guys do that so fast?
Right.
Like,
even for elves, that was a blink.
So I know there's arguments to be made that the Númenorians are already kind of having issues with being mortal, and they didn't think it was fair that they didn't get to live forever.
Well, that's the whole point, though, is like Sauron knew to exploit those feelings that already existed, but were not actually being acted upon, and he just amplified those.
Yeah. I mean, TLDR here, they fail so badly that the gods step in and destroy the island Atlantis style, sending a giant tidal wave, killing we don't know how many people, and literally breaking the world and forming a new, like the world goes from flat to round essentially, but a little bit more than that. There's now like a metaphysical barrier between Middle Earth and the heavens, Undying Lands, because Númenor messed up so badly.
Right. So that's a big one in the case.
So I get why the elves are salty. Yeah.
But I don't know. It's still like, you can blame Sauron more than men. Like, there was a lot of manipulation happening on a closed island.
And like maybe in the moment, Ar-Pharazôn should have destroyed Sauron. Maybe he didn't know how to destroy Sauron, but did none of the elves that he just rescued tell him not to take Sauron back with them?
I'm sure somebody was.
I hope somebody
was got to be saying it.
But yeah, the men broke the world. So that's kind of a huge strike against them.
There's always somebody that sees it and tries to say something.
Elrond's in the background again being like, come on.
It's always Elrond.
Come on, man. But maybe he didn't speak up again.
Yeah,
who knows?
Wasn't loud enough. Yeah.
Like, you can't just be disappointed in your brother's line. Maybe you should say something. So that to me is the big one. Like, I get it. The elves are going to be like, okay, we might have messed up a lot in the first age, but literally you guys broke the world in the second age. Fair point.
For another man in the Silmarillion that I have not making good decisions would be Turin.
Oh, yeah. King of bad decisions all around.
But in his defense also, I'm a bad prosecutor, by the way.
This is why we're not lawyers. It's fine.
Yeah. He's also under a curse of Morgoth.
This is the thing. He's cursed by Morgoth. His whole bloodline is cursed by Morgoth. His dad is a hero, which we will get to in the case of Four Men. But I will say that Turin's pattern of like pride and self-destruction and collateral damage is pretty impressive, even with the curse. So I don't think it's entirely the curse.
Okay.
He leads to a lot of problems. He eventually redeems himself, but he leads to a lot of problems.
Yeah. Kills a friend.
Kills friends, marries a sister.
Yeah.
Bad news bears, right? So like he's poster child for men making bad decisions, but is it entirely his fault because he had the curse? I don't know.
That is a hard one to differentiate, but
yeah,
it does seem like some of these examples involve evil whispering.
Evil directly manipulating the men versus elves just... I mean,
we'll get there.
We'll get there. I'm like, oh, let's jump into the
foreshadowing.
I'm so eager to prosecute the elves now.
Well, we might be ready for that depending on who else we have.
I think it'd be useful to kind of call out some of the arguments for men, because there's a lot. Like, as much as we talk about men are weak and Elrond and that whole flashback in the movies, right? Again, not real, but looking at the good things that men have done throughout the ages, it seems super unfair for Elrond in the movies to say that.
We've got Beren.
Beren and Beren's dad, Barahir. Barahir was so cool. For everybody who's seen the movies, that cool serpent ring that Aragorn has, the Ring of Barahir.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a gift from Galadriel's brother, Finrod, to Barahir, because the man Barahir saved Finrod's life really extraordinarily in the Battle of Sudden Flame, which is one of the major battles of the First Age. Like, Finrod would be dead without him. And he's like, here's a token of my friendship. Men are cool. Like, we're cool for ages. Humans are dope, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a bunch of things happen.
That's a really good example.
Yeah, that's a great... Like, literally, you saved Galadriel's brother's life. And that ring is so important that even Aragorn's wearing it in the Third Age. And then his son, Beren, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did some cool stuff.
He's one of the only... Well, he is the only person to actually take a Cimmerl from Morgoth's crown. Like, no elf can say that.
No, had some heavy lifting done by his lady love, Luthien. I will
As
say,
we've talked about before.
We've talked about, like, Luthien did most of it.
He had a hand in it, but...
Literally a hand in it. A hand grasping a Silmaril that gets bitten off by a giant wolf. But yes, he did have a hand. Like, it says something that he is able to, with his lady love, as a team, are able to accomplish something that no, like, straight elfin pairing... Now, granted Galadriel's brother Finrod also helps him get half of the way there, so...
Okay, so maybe not as strong as...
No, but, like, he's able to, like, see the quest through. So I think it is important. Like, it was ultimately a man and his elven lady who take the Silmaril, not a whole host of elves, right? Or an elf by themselves, so...
Yeah. Tell me more about Hurin. The dad of Turin.
Yeah, the Children of Hurin, the most depressing book in the Tolkien's legendary.
It was pretty sad.
So I only call him out because he is captured by Morgoth during the Battle of Unnumbered Tears, which is another major battle, the Nernia Tharnodiad, I never say it right, in the First Age. And Morgoth captures him, personally tortures him, which I can't imagine was comfortable in any way.
Is he the one that was chained up on the side of the mountain? Or no?
No, that was Maestros. Well,
you're right,
too. It's an elf.
Lots of torture.
I take that back. He's on a mountain somewhere, and he has to, like, sit on the mountain and see the grief of everything that happens.
Yeah.
There's also another elf that's, like, chained up to the mountain. They have to cut off his hand to save him, which...
Yeah, that's
tangent.
a different...
Well, that's a different dude. Different tortured by bad guys.
Okay, so remind me... So Hurin does have to see everything?
Yeah, so Hurin is captured by Morgoth, is tortured. Morgoth says, tell me where the hidden city of Gondolin is, right? And he's like, nope. And then Morgoth is like, well, screw you and all of your family. I'm going to curse you forever. And he sets him up on the peaks of Thangorodrim, which are the mountains that form Angband. And he forces him to basically sit and watch the ruin of his family play out. Like, he gives him, like, this magical sight. So, like, sees everything that later happens with his children and his wife and all that. And
has to see all of Turin's bad decisions. And
it's so bad. But through all of that, through all of the torture with Morgoth, he never gave up Gondolin and he never gave up anything. We don't have any examples in the text of the elves being that strong with Morgoth.
Yeah.
And I think it's very interesting that could have happened, right? We've got an elf who was able to escape Angband the one time and talk about it. But the only other example of somebody we have being tortured by Morgoth is an elf who ends up giving up the city of Gondolin. So unlike the man, the elf gives it up.
That's a big...
Right. That's a big difference. Now, there is, like, the only elf who famously mocked or insulted Morgoth to his face was Fëanor. I think he calls him, like, a jail crow of Mandos or something. But, like, he has his own motivations there. So he's jealous and he wants to...
We're going to have to save all the Fëanor stuff for when we're...
There's a whole lot there. But yeah, Hurin...
He's a good guy.
He's real strong. Like, the mental fortitude that it would take to withstand direct torture from Morgoth
and how long did that happen?
For the existence of his whole family. He's up there for a while.
Yeah.
I think he eventually... It's bad.
Yeah.
But again, no elf did that.
Hold on, because... So Morwen, was she Hurin's wife?
Yes.
then I think that they do meet up
Yeah.
at the end of Children of Horin. I think it was more when I think she actually dies at the end. And Horin he's like with her when she dies. So it ends horribly sad.
I think he
also.
finds her the grave of their children at the very end. It's so sad. But again, he still didn't break. He didn't break under torture.
Probably the strongest guy that we've talked about.
+1 for men.
Yeah.
+1 for men.
Big +1.
Several +1s for men.
I have Tuor.
Yeah. He helps defend the city of Gondolin.
Yeah. Another +1 for Gondolin defense.
He's also the one that's sent, right? We talked about this in the other episode. He's sent to tell the king of Gondolin, hey, buddy.
He was told by Ulmo to warn Gondolin, and he tries. They don't listen to him.
They don't listen to him, but he did his part.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's able to get out with his wife and everything, and their little baby,
and helps others survive. Good guy.
Cursed with good knowledge. Tries to save the elves.
Just because you're not listened to doesn't mean it's your fault.
Well, also as a man to have the valor show up and tell you, hey, go tell the elves this. That's hefty
true.
Job description to just be okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Elmo, sir. Whatever you want, sir. But the fact that he Elmo trusted a man with it instead of an elf, I'm just saying.
That's another big +1. Okay, so this is a little late because this is actually, I think, a point against men.
Oh, I'm here.
You're going to have to remind me of who this is.
I'll try.
But there was a certain group of men, I forget which battle it was in the first age, that basically betrayed.
Huge betrayal. They go fight with the orcs.
Yes.
Hold on.
Do you remember?
1 second.
Ulfang and his sons, which
it's super obscure.
It's a pretty obscure one, yeah. But it's mentioned where which battle was it?
Narnia, the battle
that's right.
of Unnumbered Tears.
Love that name, but I still can't pronounce it. They basically betray everybody and start fighting with the orc.
They show up and they're like, whoops, guess we're fighting on Morgoth's side. And the elves are like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not cool. That's definitely a strike against men. And I think it shows that just men, they play both sides, man. There's men that are sitting there defending the elvish retreat at the Battle of Unnumbered Tears and dying because of it. And then there's the men that are like, Team Morgoth. Morgoth is our king.
Ooh, did they become the Easterlings?
Maybe. I mean, I think it's said that branch of the Dane, the men they serve Morgoth. And we know that there are men from the early ages that are corrupted by and serve Morgoth. So
yeah, so it could be.
They're corrupted. I will say that. I think we have more stories of men being corrupted and serving Morgoth from the get-go. Vice. Elves who are brought into the world under the peace and the stars. And they can make some bad decisions, but we don't have
siding with the enemy.
I don't really think we have examples of elves fighting with Morgoth.
No, I can't actually think of any.
So that's a point against men in that sense, that they're corruptible enough that they're like, Team Morgoth. And the elves are like, why would you ever do that?
Yeah, good point. So yeah, I can't think of any elves that have sided with the dark powers.
No, there's ones that have been folded under torture, which we'll get to, and betray other elves and kill other elves.
Which, does help Morgoth, but it's not directly, I agree with Morgoth.
Yeah, they're not fighting on behalf of Morgoth to do these things necessarily. Right. So,
big minus.
That's a big minus. Men. See?
Ouch.
So
are we now talking about bad elves?
I have it framed as men are not uniquely weak. They have their weaknesses.
Okay.
But so do the elves. This is kind of my thesis for the whole argument where, yes, men...
No, I feel you. Yeah.
Men are bad. Men make bad decisions. Men do bad things. Men side with Morgoth.
But they're not uniquely weak like Elrond likes us.
Correct. If we're focusing on the term weak, the elves are very weak in
their own
multiple occasions, especially throughout the first and the second age, frankly. The third age, they're not really there so much, so I guess that matters. But let's talk about Fëanor, because I have strong feelings.
Let's do it, because I know about Fëanor, and I know he's done a lot of bad things.
Let me give you his greatest hits. I don't think we need to go into the details. For those interested, the full annals of Fëanor and all of his disastrous decisions can be found in the Silmarillion. Please go read it. Basically, the Silmarillion is about Fëanor and his bad decisions. It's named after the things he made and everything that happens because of them. In the first age, after Morgoth and Ungoliant have their little party and wreck everything in the two trees and
suck all the light out of the world.
Yep, and make off with the Silmarils that Fëanor made. So there's 3 very shiny jewels that the last things around that capture the light of the two trees that no longer exist. Cool.
Right. So he's pissed.
Yeah, Fëanor is not happy about that. And then he and all of his sons swear an oath, which is probably the single most stupid thing They do. Like, I get that they're fired up.
Right.
But words matter in Tolkien's world, as we've discussed, and words
Especially
are
oaths.
binding.
Yep.
And because they swear an oath to get back these jewels that were stolen, no matter what, they make a whole series of bad decisions to do so, which creates a lot of problems for the elves and a lot of the fighting in the first age.
So I know that oaths themselves, it's like you got to be very careful with your wording. Obviously, they weren't very careful with their wording. If they were, would it have been better? Or is it just kind of like, as soon as you make an oath, just stuff starts, going awry?
I don't know. But I feel like there's a little bit of commentary from Tolkien on, like, maybe don't be so obsessed with material things.
Yeah.
In this, because yes, it's his greatest work. And yes, it's this incredible thing. And yes, the elves really want the light of the two trees. And the only things that happen are summer elves. And they're powerful in their own right. But it's not worth killing your kin and family over, which is what we're going to get.
Right.
Right. Like, there's a point where, like, I don't think the ends justify the means with a lot of what Fëanor does. So greatest hits, right?
Yep. Oh, just to reiterate too, that like, if you make an oath, you can't just decide that you're not, it's like, you know what, I can see now that the oath isn't what's important.
You said the words.
You said the words, and what, you die? Like, what's the...
I don't know. Like, or bad karma is going to come for you. That's what I see it as. Boromir made an oath to protect Frodo, and he broke it, and he dies.
That's true.
Just saying.
Yeah, that's true.
So, Fëanor's greatest hits. I will go over it, not in detail, all of the things he does because he's trying to get these shiny rocks back, or these shiny jewels back, as we talked about at the beginning. So, first of all, it's called the first kin-slaying, and he realizes the jewels have been stolen.
This isn't the one that involves the boats, right?
Oh, this is the boats, part one. So he and his host of angry Fëanorians, right, the Noldor elves, make it all the way to the coast of the Undying Lands. There's another group of elves there that have boats, and they're like, "Hey, Morgoth just made off with our jewels. We need your boats." And they're like, "Nope, can't have the boats. The boats are really special." And they're like, "But we really need the boats." And they're like, "Nope, you got to find another way to get to Middle Earth." And instead of saying, "Okay, we hear you. We're going to find a different way to get to Middle Earth," no, Fëanor kills his other fellow elves and steals their ships. And it's explicitly described as murder in the text. Like, this isn't a like, "Oh, I accidentally killed you because we were fighting." No, they're like, "Get out of our way or we'll kill you."
Kin. Yeah.
And they kill them. And it's so stupid. Like,
over some jewels.
Over some jewels that they haven't. They don't know where they are. They don't know what their fate is. But Fëanor is so driven by his now quest to get these jewels back with his sons that he'd rather kill his own kin than find a different way to get to Middle Earth, or like maybe go ask the Valar for help. Like, it's so...
There were other options.
There were other options than killing elves, elf on elf violence. So that happens. And then once they get to Middle Earth, instead of like leaving the ships there or somehow sending the ships back to what was left of the Teleri elves, they burn all of them.
Which, rubbing more salt in the wound, it's like showing how evil that really was.
It was also a middle finger because there's a second host of elves coming under Fingolfin, which Galadriel is of that house. And basically they said, yeah, we're going to send the boats back for you guys.
Oh.
And Fëanor lied.
Right.
And they burn the ships once they get to Middle Earth and say, "Screw you guys, good luck."
So the elves that were actually trying to help them get the jewels are like,
they have to take the hard road without the boats and cross the Helcaraxa, which is this icy, horrible wasteland at that time connecting the Undying Lands to Middle Earth.
Right.
And it takes like 7 years to cross, and a whole bunch of elves die. It'd be like going across the Arctic, right? Like,
so it's kind of indirectly killing your brethren.
Absolutely indirectly kills them. So like he burns the ships, which is awful, rather than to allow Fingolfin's host to cross. And then he, because of those actions, dooms a ton of Fingolfin's people to die, which is insane. And like Galadriel is one of the ones that makes it through and survives. So you can imagine how she feels about Fëanor at this point in time, right?
Right. Rings of Power. When Galadriel's like, "Hey, Sauron is still alive." But is that snowy area not the same place?
No, it invokes the vibe, but it's supposed to be the northwestern corner of Middle Earth where like Angband and Utumno, what's left of those mountains. The part of the Helcaraxa doesn't exist anymore when they severed.
Oh, okay.
Well, which hasn't happened yet, to be fair. So maybe it's still there. But when Númenor breaks the world.
But they are different.
They are different. I think it's implied they're different.
Yeah, we're Galadriel crossing the snowy expanse in Rings of Power is in the Second Age.
It's in the Second Age. And to be fair, the Helcaraxa still should exist at that point in time. But I don't think that's where she's poking around. Yeah, she's not going back across the crossing to the Undying
But it can give you an idea of maybe
how awful it is. Yeah, I see. It very much feels like that vibe. So I think that's why they put it in the show. But yes. So Fëanor has killed his kin, directly and indirectly, burned a bunch of ships, and then his sons go to Thingol's kingdom in Doriath, which we've talked about. Thingol and Melian have this amazing protected kingdom. It's where Luthien is born. It's this beautiful thing that's surviving. And the sons of Fëanor sack Thingol's kingdom, killing elves to recover the Silmaril that they heard was there. Because this is after Beren and Luthien recover the Silmaril.
Oh,
this is after
so they got rumor that they
heard that there's a Silmaril hanging out in the kingdom of Doriath, and instead of, I don't know, having an adult conversation about it,
give it to me now.
They go
Basically
kill the
robbery.
elves again, which is just
insane.
That's the second kinslaying.
The second direct kinslaying.
Yeah, the Fingolfin's host doesn't officially count, but I think it should.
Yeah.
And then later on in the First Age, after the fall of Gondolin, after the straggling survivors make it out to the mouths of the Syrian River at the coast, and this is where Elrond's mom, Elwing, is with all of that, because she's been able to make it out with the Silmaril.
Oh, right.
So this is the part where she tries to kill herself. So the sons of Fëanor show up again, and like we're talking about like refugees from this catastrophic attack. And again, they're like only focused on getting the Silmaril that they hear that these refugees have, and they
care
start
about the people at all.
They don't care about they don't care about their fellow elves. So they basically threaten to kill Elwing, and she throws herself into the ocean, and that's when Ulmo saves her, and everything else happens. But again, like,
yeah,
maybe stop being so focused on the Silmarils and stop killing your kin just for a second.
So I can't remember which son of Fëanor it is, but I vaguely remember at least one of them trying to question their actions.
Yeah.
But it's basically like, well, I took an oath, basically decides to do it anyway.
You're right. I can't think of his name right now
either.
But there's one of them is like, is this a good idea, guys? Come on, we're going to go with whatever dad says, right?
Yeah.
It's not just one, it's like a whole series of disasters that frankly, I don't know, like I'm sure the men that fought for Morgoth killed other men, but not on this scale.
Well, I guess they were manipulated by their own creations
and greed and stuff, but they're not doing it at the behest of Morgoth. They're creating their own violence,
right? Like elves. Nobody convinced them, of anything.
That this is the only way. And these other
so important.
These other elves are betrayers by not giving them the Silmarils back. And I like, at some
like,
point, are we the baddies?
No. Are we the baddies? Yeah.
But like, I feel very strongly. I'm me. I'm anti-Fëanorian. I'm anti-Noldor elves. They cause a lot of. Think about all the elves like those in Doriath that have been there, just chilling out, doing their own thing, and now they have to fight Morgoth and this angry group of elves from Fëanor. Like that doesn't. We don't need two fronts here. Why don't we all unite and fight Morgoth? No, we're gonna.
Well, yeah, the whole point is like Morgoth stole the Silmarils, not the elves.
Okay, we should be mad at him, not the other elves.
The elves are just holding the Silmaril, but they're not even necessarily trying to keep it from Fëanor. Although when Fëanor comes in like that, though, they're going to try to keep it from
Fëanor dies before the rest of this sorts itself out anyway, right?
Yeah.
There's an argument to be made that the Silmarils are cursed. So because of the oath of Fëanor, like nobody should be mucking about with the Silmarils because whoever touches them for the most part doesn't have a happy ending.
And actually, this is where Melian was feeling that.
Oh,
I think, and tried to convince Thingol. Like
she called it. I think Elrond's dad is the only one that kind of does okay with the Silmaril, and even then he's stuck in the sky forever. So elves can throw shade at men, but men have, looking at the history of Fëanor, men have every right to throw shade back at elves for
100%.
Their weakness and poor decisions.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
And because, so Fëanor and his sons are the leaders of all this, but like lots of elves.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like just this small group of people.
No, this is like
killed
host of elves attacking elves. It's not like 6 rogue guys. It's people that are following their leader being like, well, he says to kill the other elves. So, you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Right? It's like, let's think about this a little bit more critically.
I have next on my list, speaking of Thingol.
Yeah.
I have Thingol on my list.
Yep. Pride man.
He gets, because he's pretty wise. I mean, overall,
not wise enough to listen to his wife at the end.
No, and actually, I mean, even during his wise phase, he still doesn't listen to his wife enough and does some not great things. But
he doesn't want to lose his daughter.
Understandable. But then once he gets a Silmaril, it does
affect him.
Yeah, it affects him. He ends up like insulting the dwarves.
Don't do that, man. Yeah, you ask him to build this super necklace and set the Silmaril in it, and then they show up and he's like, what kind of work is this? I'm not going to pay you for this. This isn't what I asked for. And they're like, well, hold on, buddy.
It creates a whole political crisis.
Yep. It triggers a war between the dwarves and...
So is that like the main beef that the elves and dwarves have with each other was from this
I think that's
phase?
That's a good chunk of it.
Because that goes on for thousands
of years. That bitterness
some bad blood.
For a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the best.
Yeah, that's a big negative for the elves there.
I will do one call out with Thingol. There's writings from Tolkien and commentary by the author that he wasn't super satisfied with the single narrative, and he rewrote it a bunch. You can see from his notes that his son Christopher found that he revised it multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say it's a little bit more contested in terms of Thingol's a bad guy, but we don't know how happy Tolkien was with where he ended up with that story.
Okay. We don't really know in which way that goes.
Maybe he wanted to rewrite it again and never got to. Maybe he wanted to make him...
I mean, Thingol, it's clear that he's complex character.
He does some good, he does some bad. He ultimately messes up badly enough. His whole kingdom falls apart. But, I mean, whatever.
That is pretty bad.
It's all good. I have Maeglin. Do you want to talk about somebody who does fold under torture from Morgoth?
Yeah. Remind me about Maeglin, because I know the name. I do remember, but not well.
Maeglin is the nephew of Turgon. He's captured by Morgoth's forces in the First Age. He was the Dark Elf and the son of the woman who got lost in the really awful land. So for everybody, I'm going to do a very brief Cliff Notes version of it. But when the elves are fleeing from another city that got destroyed and trying to make their way to Gondolin, some of the elves in their party get separated. Everybody assumes they're dead. Eventually, the mom and her son make their way into Gondolin and are there.
Mm-hmm.
And the king of Gondolin was like, cool, but you got to stay here. You can't ever leave. Maeglin doesn't listen to that and basically does a little expedition outside of Gondolin, gets captured by Morgoth's forces. Morgoth is like, you're going to tell me where Gondolin is because it's what I want to destroy next. And he tortures him. And Maeglin folds. Unlike Hurin, Maeglin folds under pressure. He reveals the location.
An elf?
He's an elf. He's called a dark elf, though, which is very interesting in Tolkien's writing. There's not a lot on that. Like dark of heart, different type of elf. Very interesting, though, that he's described as a dark elf. And you don't see that description being used often. Anyway, Maeglin totally folds and gives Morgoth all the information and is the reason that Gondolin falls. Well, and again, covetousness, right? We talk about like Fëanor being super, like, I got to get my Silmarils back. Maeglin had a thing for the princess of Gondolin that the human man Tuor marries.
Okay.
And he really wanted her. And I think...
So is there some...
I think there's some like
jealousy.
Yeah, I think there's some jealousy and bitterness that Morgoth probably played up to get the information out of him. But either way,
still, that's
gave
just
up.
Weak.
He causes the destruction of the last major elvish city that's hidden.
That's pretty selfish. Like,
and gets a whole bunch of people killed.
Yeah.
Like a legendary betrayal, right? Like it's been around for centuries. It's like the last, I don't know, man. Like you couldn't have just like put up with the torture like the human man. And
I mean, we say that like it's so easy, but at the same time,
it's not easy to put up with torture.
Like,
but yes,
of the people we know of that were tortured by Morgoth, the elf was the one that gave in.
Yeah, and Morgoth like promises him like, oh, you can be head of Gondolin, you can have your lady, and we know that's all lies, right? But he believes it
and wants the power. At the expense of the
it makes for an epic story. That's why our boy Glorfindel gets to fight a Balrog and get reincarnated. But still, it's super, super depressing that he betrays all of the city and the city that took him in as a refugee. They didn't have to let him and his mom in.
Right. It's going to make them not want to be kind to other refugees that come in.
Well, this is what happens when you take in a refugee. Is this how the nationalist movement forms in Gondolin? Like we're anti-refugee. Oh, anyway,
I want to move to our good old Celebrimbor.
Yeah,
who he wants to make very pretty rings.
He's a craftsman. He's the grandson of Fëanor.
Yeah,
he wants
got
to
big
live
ambitions. He's trying to fill his ancestors' shoes that made beautiful things.
But also, like, I would question, like, I want to live up to Fëanor's legacy. Sir, do you know what Fëanor's legacy is?
That's who he wants to live up to?
Yeah.
Oh, the Silmarils. That makes sense.
Yeah. He made the Silmarils, but he also did a lot of bad things.
Okay.
So that statue in the center of Celebrimbor City in Rings of Power is Fëanor, by the way, the guy with the hammer.
That makes so much more context now that I've reread the Silmarillion and know more of the history. Because when I first watched Rings of Power, I didn't really have all that context. And now I'm like, oh, yeah. So that's who you were
maybe
wanting
not
to emulate?
The hero you want to be, man.
Yeah, okay. That puts it in a whole nother light.
And there's a lot of question about whether the doom of Fëanor is still upon him. Like, so the oath...
Because it's Celebrimbor...
he's his grandson.
Oh, it's traveled down the line.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Right?
I love it so much.
Juicy. It's so juicy because, like, whether or not it's true, but if Fëanor does the oath and the oath curses everything, like maybe even invoking the Silmarils and wanting to create something as greater than brings the doom of Fëanor upon Celebrimbor.
Oh, that makes so much sense. I love it so much.
It makes it that much more tragic what eventually happens to
it
him.
really does. But either way, though, even without knowing that, it's like, okay, so Sauron comes up.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, like, I'm totally not an evil.
Well, he shows up in fair form as an elf.
I'm totally not Sauron.
Emissary the Valar. He's like, I've been sent to you by the gods. Like almost, they do it kind of angelic in the show, which I thought was really good. Tangent though. So do you remember in Rings of Power in, I think the first season where they have a little bit of Celebrimbor and he's handling that hammer?
Mm-hmm.
That's Fëanor's hammer. That is the hammer that made the Silmarils, which is crazy when you think about it.
Yep.
Which maybe it's also cursed.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Then he trusts Sauron and
he doesn't know he's Sauron.
I know, but it's like this random guy comes in and is like, hey,
buddy,
I want to make some shiny rings. I mean, maybe it wasn't. So we only think it's sketchy because we know.
We know in retrospect. And there's a genuine argument to be made that Celebrimbor
that's his dream, though.
Was fooled by his ambitions. He wanted to live up to an act as great as the Silmarils. And to his credit, he makes something that is very impactful to history.
He does.
Like the Silmarils were. In the Silmarillion, there's hints that Galadriel doesn't trust Sauron in his fair disguise at all. Gil-galad does not trust. The king of the elves at the time does not trust Sauron. And Celebrimbor's like, no, he's cool.
Yeah.
He's totally cool.
It's cool. He's my best bud.
He's my new best bud. We're making rings together.
It's like, wait, what?
We're being a little glib. But yes, there's definitely this guy, the Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, shows up and he teaches all of the smiths in Eregion under Celebrimbor how to make really powerful rings.
In Celebrimbor's defense, I suppose, especially if you didn't know that the curse was upon you too. And maybe you know that Fëanor did some not great things, but you just want to make the pretty stuff. You don't want to do all that other stuff.
He wanted to make something that was remembered through history. And I think that's where he kind of tricks on his words a little bit.
Right. It's like he got what he wished for, but a little twisted.
Yeah, I think it is a key question of how aware Celebrimbor was. I think the text suggests that he was genuinely deceived.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's did you allow yourself to be deceived because of your pride in your craft for the desire to make something? He had vulnerabilities that Sauron could exploit. And I don't think he was aware of his own vulnerabilities and pride enough to...
I will admit, I think that could be me. If I really wanted something and somebody that I thought could help me move towards the goal
that seems genuine.
Yeah. I could see myself falling for it.
Yeah.
And so I can't blame him that hard for it.
It's tough. Even in the Silmarillion, it's implied that they realized the jig was up. When Sauron makes the one ring, they can sense it in the elven rings, and then they take off the elven rings and they're like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
Unlike the show Rings of Power, which I have thoughts on, the 3 elven rings are truly made without Sauron being anywhere in the picture.
Right.
Celebrimbor makes this on his own, which is why they're not corrupted like we talked about at the beginning.
It's good that those rings, even with the whole curse of or oath of Fëanor maybe being passed down, that the 3 that he made were at least relatively okay to use.
Yeah. So he still made something pretty powerful that helps out. But he, again, his fate is go say Rings of Power season 2 to see what happens to Celebrimbor. Right. It's not a happy ending.
Making the rings just caused all the strife in the second and third age.
Well, if you wanted to top Fëanor caused strife in the first age. He did it for, an age and a half? So technically, Celebrimbor created chaos for longer than Fëanor.
Yeah. I was like, depends on how long each age was.
I have to do the math on the first age.
Yeah. So those are some big ones.
So I don't know. I will say this. I land on team, I don't think the line, men are weak, is a fair characterization of men, given what we know about their actual deeds.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fair to say that all the races have their faults. But if we're looking at elves and men, elves are in no position to throw shade at men. Like pot, kettle, pot.
Yeah. Well, especially since it was a movie line.
Yes.
I think we can land on that each race has their own faults and good sides. Elves do have thousands of years of making mistakes and hopefully some wisdom by the time we're talking about some of these men that have much shorter lives. Yeah, they have some history, but as we pointed out, it was written by the elves.
Written by the elves. And I think that gets to it. I don't think it's not elves bad, men good, or men bad, elves good. I think that binary framing, that's part of the elvish propaganda. They're kind of almost casting it in a way that
right.
All right, you guys are writing the history here, but if we're going to truly examine your own deeds, there's plenty of mistakes to go around.
Yeah. Glossing over some of their biggest hits.
Well, they're technically documented in the Silmarillion, which means some elven historians wrote down the mistakes of Fëanor and everything that happened.
Well, lots of people were not happy, putting it very mildly, with Fëanor, so they knew even at the time.
Justice for Fingolfin, anyway. I think the only other thing I would say And it may come into play and it may not. And I think it's something we should probably interrogate in a future episode. One, if this were a court case, we'd be thrown out because we don't know how to present evidence. I love it.
Absolutely.
Two, I think it would be interesting to explore further whether men's nature affects their corruptibility in a way at all. Because, elves are immortal, elves live forever, but elves are also tied to Arda, the world in Tolkien's world. Men are not. We don't really know what happens to men after they die, and it almost gives them a freedom. Like, it's like their ability to be corrupted and their freedom are like two sides of the same coin. Like, they don't have to be a part of this world after they're gone, and they get to go on to who knows what else in the universe.
Right.
But their kind of fleeting nature and the chaos of being a little less stable almost compared to elves makes them potentially more corruptible or just more unpredictable in a sense. And I wonder if that plays into this whole, like, elves are like, well, they're weak because they don't stand the test of time. I'm like, well, that's not.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to
fair.
explore that some more because I still don't totally have my head wrapped around the elves. Are they actually immortal? What does it really mean by them being tied to the world? And what does it mean that men are not?
Yeah.
And I'd love to explore that some more.
Well, what even, like, are the elves, like, throwing shade at men because they're a little jealous of the deal, that they got in the universe? Yeah. A little bit of that. It's, like, easy for you to say. Like, you guys are stuck here forever. Where men are like, peace out after there's some
envy going on between both races.
Yeah, a little bit. I think it explains why maybe the histories aren't necessarily completely truthful on both sides.
Sounds like a future episode to me.
Well, I think that brings us to our call to adventure. So if you enjoyed wandering with us today, please subscribe to Beyond the Brandywine on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can also find us on YouTube at Beyond the Brandywine. We'll be putting up visual tangents to accompany some of the podcasts, as well as recordings of the podcasts themselves.
For even more Middle-earth musings, follow us on Instagram at Beyond the Brandywine.
Plus, find all of our links and more at beyondthebrandywine.com.
We would love to hear your thoughts on what the line Men Are Weak could mean, whether it's actual elvish propaganda. Take it with a grain of salt because we know it's only in the movies. But do you think Peter Jackson's take on Elrond was accurate, or do you think men don't get a fair shake in the histories? Reach out to us on socials or email us at hello@beyondthebrandywine.com.
What was that again?
hello@beyondthebrandywine.com.
All right. So until next time, remember that even the wisest among us can still have a blind spot for their own missteps.
Yes. And don't be afraid to wander beyond the Brandywine. Let's do the thing. Let's talk about man and elves and why elves are full of shit. Just kidding. Why history is written by the victors and the elves.
Are men really weak?
This week on wait, I can't do it right. Or this week on Beyond the Brandywine, we talk about whether or not this is truly the fate of men or if it's all just elvish propaganda. But, like,
Doink doink.
Yeah. Doink doink. I can't not doink doink. Do do do.